Hello and welcome back to Film Frenzy with me, Kris.
And me, Jack.
This is part 2, so if you haven't watched part 1, what on earth are you doing? Go watch that now, or you're not going to know what's happening.
Yep, but we were challenged to make a thriller in 12 hours using the words colleague and soup.
Yes, we were. So, without further ado, here is the world premiere of Copper Soup.
The game's up, all right? We know you did it.
You got nothing on me.
Monday the 16th. A half-eaten bowl of mushroom soup left in the staff room unwashed for 4 days. Last Wednesday, tomato soup splattered over every inch of the microwave. There was even some on the outside. And then yesterday, minestrone in the plug hole. I had to dig it out with my own hands.
Quite the mess you've got there.
You're sick. You better start talking. You're staring down the barrel of a month's suspension. With pay.
You got no proof it was me.
This was found in your desk drawer. Your prints are all over it.
Well, only a can opener isn't a crime, is it?
Then how about this? A receipt for 4 cans of soup purchased by you 2 weeks ago. Where's the final can?
There'd be no fun in just telling you now. What the?
Why are you doing this? We've been colleagues for years. This isn't like you. Just tell us the location of that last can and you might just leave here with your job intact.
Well, you see, it's not that simple. Because it's not the can you're after. You're looking for the soup. And well, that's somewhere a whole lot different.
No. You couldn't.
Oh, but I could. Extra large can, no cover on the bowl, full power, 15 minutes.
But that's way too long.
Oh yeah, it'll be caked on for weeks. I can almost hear it bubbling.
You're insane. Get officers stationed at every microwave in the precinct, now!
You'll never find it in time.
We have 20 trained officers out there. There is no way you're going to get away with this.
But what if you're looking in the wrong place?
What?
Maybe you should be looking somewhere a little closer to home, Detective.
No. How?
You've been complaining about your back gate being broken for weeks. And all that boasting of your fancy new microwave.
Good God.
Would you like to know what soup it is?
Chicken?
Try something a little more adventurous.
Vegetable? No. Broccoli. And Stilton! Think of the smell! You won't be able to get rid of it for days! Tick-tock, detective! Tick-tock!
Well, there we go. How was that? I thought that was pretty good, if you ask me.
I enjoyed that one.
I enjoyed it. I think we did pretty well
Well done us.
on all of our 3 words there. What do you think?
Yeah,
Word-wise.
word-wise, I think obviously we did soup very well.
Very well, so much
Very
so.
well.
We didn't do too well.
I think it was very thrillery, like tropesy sort of thing. I think we got it a good amount of thrills
Good
in
amount
there.
of thrills and spills.
Colleague,
is probably the weakest.
Well, you say that, but the whole thing, what I like, there's an undertone of what actually happens in an office. People being like, oh, you left the microwave messy, colleague, you.
Yeah,
you know.
I agree with like the premise and the setup. I almost feel like the way we did it ended up being a bit confusing.
Maybe.
Because like we started talking about police and he's like, so hold on, is he been arrested or does he work with him? Because I think when we started out writing it, it was just like, he works with him and we set up the premise it's an interrogation, but really he's just interviewing his mate being like, stop leaving the place messy, mate. What are you doing? And just doing that in a thrillery sort of way. But then he starts mentioning like the precinct and his officers, and I think that's a part of like when you write something really short, you like forget about things and you like lose track and you start doing things which are tropes that actually don't end up working.
But I think if you kind of just take a little step back and just be like, I'm going to enjoy this, it's fun. Just
I think it works when you're watching it, but I think looking back, like the colleague thing gets a bit lost in translation somewhere. Like he mentions the staff room, he says like we work together, whatever, which we very much shoehorned in. It's like, oh, I don't feel like it's colleague here now. Just, oh, we've worked together for years, kind of thing.
We just added the word colleague in red pen on the script
pretty much. But yeah, overall, I think we did pretty well on the words.
Me too.
I think we did pretty well to like parody the genre as well. Like I think the two bits that work really nicely for me were the evidence, like showing the photos of the crime scene and like picking up the can opener and the receipt and all that sort of stuff. And also then like the little flashbacks of him doing the crime. Like I thought those bits really like set it in being a thriller.
I really enjoyed making those props as well and gathering the bits together. Like very rarely do we have to make any prop. It's just like we're like, oh, we either have a prop or we can't get that, so never mind.
Because I don't think we showed you in the behind the scenes, but we actually like had to make those photos kind of like we took some stuff from Google and like edited them in Photoshop to make them because we obviously didn't have time to do them, to photograph them ourselves. But yeah, I think that bit really worked in the end.
It's weird how good just putting like a can opener in a sandwich bag suddenly makes it look like evidence.
Yeah, is it like, and it's surprisingly easy to do in a short amount of time. Just like hold it up in a bag and it immediately feels like it's that kind of evidence-y sort of thing.
Recording the whole B-roll, we were very much just kind of like, oh yeah, we'll just quickly record that at the beginning, and then it actually turned into this longer process. It's surprisingly lengthy.
It almost took the same amount of time, if not longer, to record all the B-roll than it did the main interrogation scene. And we very much, when we were planning it, just thinking like, oh, we'll just pop to yours for like 5 seconds.
Quickly film it.
We'll just bust out the B-roll and then we'll be back. And then it's like 2 hours later, we're still recording all this stuff. And yeah, that took way longer. But then it took hardly any time to actually record the interrogation.
Not really, no.
Surprisingly quick, because we had all like the lines in front of us, and as you said before, we're just doing it line at a time, just like say the line, say the line, say the line, okay, next line, say the line, and that actually like went pretty quickly. Weirdly, I actually really enjoyed acting as a psychopath, I think. It came worryingly naturally to me. Like, I was very much in my comfort zone there. Like, just being really sinister and creepy and,
It's a lot of fun seeing you do that as well. I was enjoying myself.
Just like the manic laughing and all that sort of stuff and being just like really, like the crazy eyes, busting out the crazy eyes. But
you just let your inner self out, don't you?
Yeah,
really?
Pretty much. Just let it all go.
See, I really enjoyed playing that kind of really serious role, but the words I'm saying are totally like ridiculous as well. I really love playing deadpan comedy. It's a lot of fun because you almost can't go wrong. You just try your hardest to make it serious, and it just ends
that's what
up
makes
funny.
it funny. Yeah, like that's like what we're saying with like the parody. Almost like we just wrote it as a complete straight interrogation, but you're talking about leaving soup out for days and like having a week suspension with pay and stuff, and you just say it in the way that you'd otherwise said normal lines, and that just makes it work even better.
It's perfect way for someone that can't act amazingly. I think it's the best kind of acting to do.
Yeah, I was happy with kind of how effective the blackout thing for the interrogation was. Like, obviously it doesn't look amazing or particularly special, but the fact that we didn't have any kind of room we could have done that in, I think it just works to almost not draw attention to itself.
It's
You're
like
not focusing
a blank slate kind of thing.
Yeah, and because it has been done before, like our inspiration was very much the Dark Knight interrogation at the start when they're talking in the pitch black. And yeah, it would have been nice to have this sort of grimy interrogation room and actually be able to do like 2 shots of them talking with each other and do some wides. But I think for the purposes of what we did, I think it worked surprisingly well.
Yeah, it tricks me still that we are actually talking to each other. So, you know, if it tricks me and I know the full extent, then yeah, it should work. And I'd say just having a set in general is quite an interesting experience. Like, on one hand, it's great because we were doing it right here and we got the editing suite right there. We don't have to go anywhere. It doesn't matter if it rains, all of that. So that's all good. But it takes a long time to set up. And if you were just out and about filming, you literally just get your camera out, quickly film a bit, like when we were doing the action film. It's so much more mobile. So there's like real pros and cons to both. And it wasn't really any quicker having a set. If anything, it took longer.
It was surprising how long it took to set up us sitting at a table with a black screen behind us. You know what I mean? Like, I almost can't believe how long that took to set up. Now I'm thinking back to it.
What did we do?
Yeah. Well, I think firstly because obviously we were trying stuff out. We originally didn't have the black screen. We were just trying it with just making it really dark and only lighting us, but it's still ambiently lit the rest of the room.
Then the black screen goes up, and we talked about maybe putting black paper over the windows because it was a really bright sunny day. So yeah, there was a kind of lot of discussion about what we could have tried to do.
Yeah.
Now the thriller genre, as we discussed in the beginning, it's quite broad and sort of more of just like an extra genre added to something else. So in one way, it's really good because the world is your oyster and you can almost do anything.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, when you're on a tight schedule, it's not good. It's almost better to have a much more like direct idea that you need to do rather than just being like, you can do anything you want as long as it's a bit suspenseful.
Yeah, it was just difficult to make sure you weren't straying too much into another genre, basically. Like, I found it, like you say, quite open and easy because we kind of do anything. Like, I think we verge into a couple of different genres. Like, at the end is almost horror-y, like with him like opening and revealing the crime scene or whatever. Then like with The Bomb, it's quite almost like an action film, I guess. And then like I'm a Psychopath, so that's kind of like a detective-y sort of cop thing. So we sort of changed into a couple of different things. But yeah, it was hard almost to not make it too much just you're making a horror film or you're making an action film. And so yeah, it was tricky to make that balance, I think.
Yeah.
So I generally think this one was pretty successful with what we did, but what would you have liked to have done differently, I guess?
I would have quite liked if we could have to have more handheld movement in the interrogation scene, especially when you start getting really crazy in that. Being locked on a tripod often just makes things feel quite sterile a little bit, so having that extra freedom of movement would have really helped. And we technically could have done it as we both weren't acting at the same time. But
we needed a 2-camera setup to save us time, basically.
So it kind of, we were stuck not doing it with the time issues, but yeah, that would have been quite nice.
Yeah, I think if we'd have had more time to like storyboard it out or whatever, we'd have known that basically as we get further into the interrogation, it gets like closer to our faces. That's the way we kind of edited it at the end. But we just wanted the choice with having both cameras. But if we'd thought about it more, we could have probably just done it all handheld and then slowly been creeping in on us as like the tension of the scene grows.
What about you? Anything you'd have liked to have done different?
I would have liked to have more time on the sound. As we mentioned, we didn't get to properly sound mix it in the 12 hours, and so we polished it up a bit, but we didn't want to add too much outside of the time constraints. And so like with the flashbacks, I felt like they could do with some sound effects, like some like sort of glitchy sort of stuff, or like the sound of like the can opening, but in like a really sort of distorted-y, like twisted wow, like the sound of like pouring into the soup, and like just play with the sort of like memory element of that we kind of tried to do with the visuals, but also how add sound in there to make it sort of mess around with that a bit more, because I think that would have just helped like make those feel a bit more sinister or whatever. So
yeah, that'd have been pretty cool, I think.
Well, yeah, there we go. There are our thoughts on our thriller. Let us know what you thought.
Yep, thank you very much for watching. As always, really do appreciate all the wonderful support. But I guess until next time, goodbye.
See ya.